Here with Jackie Laster at Anna Medford 2023. How are we doing, Jackie?
I'm doing excellent, thank you.
So for those who may not be familiar with mind letting people know who you voice from what?
Sure, I voice Xiangling from Genshin Impact, Melty from the Rising the Shield Hero, Serena from Pokemon Masters, Kyo from Demon Slayer, and much, much more.
So real quick, how did you get into voice acting?
I mean, I'm a lifelong anime fan. It just seemed natural. I've been acting my whole life and went to a convention one time and they were doing open auditions and I auditioned and ended up getting in.
So how long have you been voicing for now?
6-7 years now.
That's a fairly long time.
Yeah.
With the amount of voices you've done, it's impressive.
Thank you. I've been very fortunate.
I mean, again, it seems to have paid off.
I love it. It's the best job in the world.
So another question I usually ask, advice for those who may want to get into voice acting.
Take lots of classes. Try everything. Observe your surroundings. And also, a great tool is just to read out loud. Like just books, just open a page, just read the entire page, record yourself, listen back. It's a very simple, easy way to get better and improve yourself.
Yeah, and plus I've noticed a lot lately, especially on Twitter, a lot of people are posting casting calls for voiceover work for podcasts and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a lot easier to find jobs these days, especially for up and comers. People are trying to break into the world. Twitter is a wonderful resource for indie projects, and you never know which indie project is going to blow up.
I've noticed myself. I've actually done a few myself. Just
there's so much
it's a way to hear back part,
and build your reel. It's a great way to start.
And I'm sure you can also agree that even if you don't get a role, it doesn't mean you should give up. Keep on trying.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Even for professional actors, the booking rate is about 1%. So many auditions, and you might book 1 out of 100. So don't lose hope.
Well, I think that should do it. I hope you enjoy the rest of the con. I hope you get the people up at your booth.
It was nice meeting you.
So I'm here with So I'm here with Elise Bowman at Anna Medford 2023. How are we doing, Elise?
We are doing great. Anna Medford has been so much fun so far, and I got to tell you, I've been really looking forward to this convention.
And is this your first time at an Oregon convention?
It's my first Oregon convention ever. Yes.
So if you're not familiar with Elise, she is known for the voice of Pan from Dragon Ball GT, Momiji's mom from Fruits Basket, and what else?
And, oh goodness, I've done Case Closed, I've done Full Metal Alchemist.
I also recognize Shin-Chan.
Yes. What else? I've done Paladins, the video game. I've done Smite, the video game. I've done an animated show called Boz the Bear. So a lot of fun stuff.
So what got you into voice acting?
Well, I started as an on-camera actor and was doing on-camera TV film commercials and wanted to do voice acting. And the short story is I was performing in an improv troupe, went to dinner with a couple of people from a different improv troupe, and Mike McFarland was there. You know him as Master Roshi and a Dragon Ball director, and they were talking about voicing these animated characters. And I was like, how can I get an audition for this? And so guess what I auditioned for? Pan. And the rest is history.
She's probably one of my favorite characters from GT, knowing that fact that she is the daughter of Gohan and
Goku. Oh, not daughter. I was thinking, I'm getting my own character
I can't remember,
wrong.
I can't remember the mother's name. Right?
Videl?
Yeah, thank you, Videl.
Yeah, we're both getting everything wrong. I'm going to get fired.
So, real quick voice acting question. What kind of advice would you like to give for someone who's wanting to get into voice acting?
Ooh, a couple of things. If you have the budget, study with somebody. I coach voice acting, but you can study with me or find somebody that you can study with. And then if you don't have the budget for coaching with somebody, just practice, because as voice actors, we are auditioning all the time. And then when we're lucky, we book. So whether it's recording on your phone or if you have some type of microphone, practice recording script or recording something from an animation show that you like, then listen back and then give yourself direction, because that's basically what an audition is. It's recording script, listening back, making adjustments, and recording again. So those are two things that I would just start with if you were brand new.
And I know lately Twitter has just been flooding with a bunch of call casting auditions lately for like audio podcasts and everything, and like indie animated shorts.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many opportunities. You can go the agency route and get an agent, or you can do things like you're mentioning where you follow along on Twitter, and there are other casting sites where you can submit yourself, or you can do both. You can have an agent and you can self-submit. So there are really so many opportunities for voice actors. Pretty cool.
And how long have you been voice acting for?
Well, I started Pan. I recorded her in 2003, I think. I'd have to. I think it was, or 2004.
That's like still back when you actually had to like audition for roles instead of like how it is nowadays, where anyone can like.
Well, you still audition, but yeah, like it's been a long time. I've been recording her, GT, and then video games. So yeah, I've been voicing Pan for a long time. I feel very blessed.
Again, thank you for this interview. And
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the con, and I hope you're here for day 2, right?
I'm here for day 2, so I'm back tomorrow.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the con, and
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
So finally, I am now here with Peter Kelamis. You've been busy today.
It's been a great day. Great day here in Medford.
I mean, your booth has been very busy.
Yeah. I mean, once the doors opened, the people came, they showed up, and everybody's been lovely.
So if you're not familiar with Peter Kelamis, he's voiced such iconic characters such as Goku from the Ocean Devil of Dragon Ball Z.
That's right.
I didn't know that was you for the longest time.
A lot of people still don't.
And you also may know him as Ted and Eddie.
That's right, that boy.
So is this your first time for an Oregon convention?
For an Oregon convention, yeah. Yeah.
And you also voiced Lego Yoda from Yoda Chronicles. Actually, I remember watching on Cartoon Network.
Yeah. So I've been at this for a while, and I had the privilege of working on a lot of different things, a lot of different TV shows, a lot of different animated things.
So I got a random nerdy question. Who do you think would win in a fight? Goku, pre-Super Saiyan Goku, or Rolf?
Rolf.
I mean, I can't argue with that. The guy rips off his shirt and he's muscular and.
Well, Goku could go Super Saiyan, and then Rolf pulls out the hat of discipline, or 3-shoe beating. You got no defense for that. I don't care if you're Super Saiyan. You can't do anything.
So, voice acting question. What kind of advice would you want to give someone who wants to get into voice acting?
Buy a microphone. Set up some kind of a booth at home, whether it's in your closet with sound blankets or whatever, and start hearing yourself on a microphone, because it's much like hearing yourself on your own voice recording for your phone for the first time. You're like, oh my God, I sound like that? You know what? You have to understand what you sound like and how you can manipulate your voice, and the only way to do that is to actually record yourself.
I can't argue with that. So what made you want to get into this type of career?
I would imitate and mock everybody endlessly through impressions and voice things, and I just grew up watching a lot of comedy shows and sitcoms and things like that, and I appreciated people who could make other people laugh. Monty Python was one of my favorites growing up, because they would turn into these ridiculous characters, and I just loved that. So I think that's what drew me to characters and character voices and impersonations and all those things.
Well, Peter, I hope you enjoy the rest of the con. I imagine,
Thank you.
Again, your booth is going to be busy tomorrow.
Well, like I say, it's been great so far, so,
sold a lot of prints and Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
Any planks been sold yet?
Not planks, but all the pops are gone. There's my last 3 Dragon Balls, so we're running low on a few things, but we'll be okay for tomorrow.
Almost to make a wish.
Yeah.
Well, I think that should do it again. Peter, thank you for taking the time. I know it's been really busy, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the con. I'm here with Griffin Burns at Kumo. Not late at night, but it's gotten dark pretty fast.
It has.
So how's the con been going for you so far, Griffin?
The con's good. This is my first time at Kumo, and I've met a lot of fans today. Did a panel today. It's been fun.
You've been busy, and I saw your line. I took a quick walk by, and your line looked busy.
It was busy this morning. I had a nice long line, but and then we met people here and there throughout the afternoon and early evening.
Nice.
Yeah.
So real quick, for those who are at home and not familiar with your work, mind telling us some of the stuff you've done over the past few years?
Sure. I'm most known as the voice of Childe in Genshin Impact. Muichiro in Demon Slayer. If you've watched the latest season, you've definitely heard me there. Doppio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Akira in Devilman Crybaby. Did I already say Doppio and JoJo's?
Yeah, I think you.
Okay, yeah, and many others. Yeah, but those are some of the highlights.
So what made you want to get into voice acting and decide this is something you wanted to do?
I fell into it. I moved to Los Angeles in 2010, and I've always been creative. And I got an audition when I moved out there, and I booked it, and the rest is history.
So what's it been like doing voice acting?
What do you mean? Like my day to day, or
Just in general, like what's it been like doing voice acting, and what kind of impact has it had on you?
well, voiceover has really changed my life, and that's my career now. And it's because of some of the roles I've done. It's also allowed me to do appearances, and come to these conventions and meet fans. So now I get to travel a lot, and yeah, it's pretty great.
So a question I haven't asked in a while, for an actor, what's it been like going to conventions and everything, and doing what you do at conventions?
Well, I get to go to a lot of new cities, a lot of hotels, and I meet a lot of fans. That's the best part, is meeting the fans.
I imagine it gets very busy though, and with the traveling and everything, I'm sure it gets very tiring in the end.
Yeah, I've done, I think, over 20 conventions this year alone.
That's
And I
just
think
this year alone?
Mhm.
Oh man, I'm surprised you're not tired and just want to sleep for a year.
Well, I'm hanging in there. I got England next, and then Seattle, so I still got a couple more this year.
From out of the States to back to that's
Mm-hmm.
how. So that actually brings up how do you do so many conventions that just how does that not get tiring doing so many conventions within 1 year?
It does get tiring. Yeah, it does. But you got to take some breaks in there. So you can't do too many back-to-back weekends. I've made the mistake of doing 4 in a row once. That was really hard. But yeah, just having some breaks, getting some good rest when I come home.
So I'm not sure if I asked this. How long have you been doing voice acting for?
Since 2010. So I've been 13, almost going on 14 years.
Long time. If you can remember, what was the very first role you did?
Nothing anime related. The first job I ever did was for San Diego's Balboa Park, but the first anime would be many years later. I think it was either Shaunark in Hunter x Hunter or Yamaki Gilmerton in Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, way back then.
A lot of roles. So, what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who wants to get into voice acting? Whether it's something they want to do full time, or just something they want to dabble in.
I would say to take acting classes, improv, voiceover class. I'd get a demo made, and then I would try to find an agent using your demo. But if you're gonna just dabble in it, I would just say have fun with it. Reach out to YouTubers, do fan dubs. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I mean lately a lot on X, a lot of people on Instagram have been posting the casting calls. I've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, the internet's your friend when it comes to finding work. Look online, look on social media, sometimes even Craigslist. I mean, I don't get work there anymore, but some people I've heard have found voiceover jobs there, so I won't knock it.
I've never heard of voice acting jobs on Craigslist.
Yeah, people, all sorts of sites. Yeah.
Any last minute advice you'd just like to throw out there before we end this?
If you love what you do, stick with it. If you're creative and you're scared about making a career, I was scared once too, and I think you just gotta, work hard, be a good person, have fun.
I can't argue with that. I think that should do it again. Griffin?
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you again. Here with Danny Chambers at KomoriCon. How are we doing, Danny?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing really well myself.
Nice.
Is this your first time for an OregonCon?
Yes,
How are you liking it so far?
it's great. It's beautiful here, and everybody's so friendly and fun, and the con is amazing. It's really big, and I'm very excited to be here.
I've seen that your line has been pretty busy today.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just excited.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, real quick, for those who aren't at the con and may not know you, mind giving a little background of who you voiced over the past few years?
Yeah. So I voiced Chise Hatori in the Ancient Magus Bride.
You were with Chise?
Yeah.
Oh, such a good anime.
Yes, it's so good. I am Tamara in Fire Emblem Engage. I am Nilu in Genshin Impact, Arlen in Honkai Star Rail, Becky in Spy Family.
Nice. So, what made you want to get into voice acting, and like, what was like this is something you want to do?
Well, I'm a theater baby. I grew up doing theater, so I just had the itch to do something else because in theater you're kind of limited by how you look like. So I wanted to do something where it wasn't based on my appearance. So took some classes and learned all about voice acting, specifically anime and video games, and it's been history from there.
So, and how long have you been doing this for?
About 10 years this year.
That's not fairly. I know some people will say that's not a long time, but that seems like a long time.
It feels like a very long. It feels twice as long as that, just because it's so much work.
And do you remember the very first role you did for voice acting?
Yes. The very first named role I got was the Morose Mononokean.
I've never heard of that.
It's a very older anime. Well, not say older. It was like in 2016. I'm dating myself. Sorry. It was. It was like about like spirits. These two guys could like help spirits with their issues and stuff. And I played Zenko Fujiwara, who is a daughter of a groundskeeper of a cemetery, I think, or those like spiritual houses. I forget what they're called.
I do not know right.
But y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and so like that was my first like big named role supporting character, and then but my first official thing was Walla for One Piece.
I don't know who that is either.
Oh, Walla, no, that's not a character.
Oh.
That's like background.
Oh.
Walla is like it means with all actors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's like the people in the background like, oh my God, no, it's so and so. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like my first official thing with Joe McDonald when he was at Funimation, when it was Funimation at the time, when he was directing One Piece. So.
So, what kind of impact has voice acting had on you?
Tremendous impact. Like, I would say like the fans in the community have been super awesome, and I think that's what makes me enjoy my job even more. Because when I go to conventions like this, it's not just because I mean, it's great that they want to see me, but I'm glad that we can like geek out about shows and about other animes, because I love supporting people and I love us supporting each other. And when they're like, oh, this anime was so good, it helped me realize this, I'm like, oh, that's good, yay, yes, you should also watch this one because this one's really good. So it's like we can all fan out together, and it makes me so happy, and that's why I like being here, because I feel like I'm doing that again. So.
And I imagine there's quite a bit of a difference between theater and voice acting.
Oh yes, absolutely. So like in theater, you have to be, bigger, louder, not with just your voice, but with your body. In voice acting, you can't do that. You have to commit. You have to show all your emotions and everything with your voice.
Yeah, I've noticed some voice actors. I saw that thing on a documentary a while back. How some voice actors will like use their hands or facial expressions to get into the character. I imagine you've done that quite a few times yourself.
Yeah, that's how we can get into character and communicate the emotions effectively, because we can't really move our bodies as much in a booth.
I mean, not unless you want to hit your co-star.
Either that, or that's the thing, we don't actually record together either.
Oh, I know some don't.
Some studios do, depending on like anime, we don't really record together. If it's like prelay animation, like animations that where they record the voice first and then they lay the animation on top.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So, but usually anime we don't record with other people. We record by ourselves. So we're in like they lock us in a tiny box and like, dude, make silly voices. We're like, okay.
Now, for someone who may want to get into theater or in this line of work, what kind of advice would you like to give them?
I always ask them if they are an actor or if they have acting experience. And if they do, I would suggest taking classes specifically in what direction you want to go in. Like if you want to do commercial, take some commercial classes. If you want to do anime, there's specifically anime and video game classes that you can take. If you don't have acting experience, I would say learn by either community theaters or improv classes, any class that's a beginner class in how to get started in acting. Because a lot of people forget that voice acting, there's the acting part. A lot of people think it's just like doing an impression or a silly voice, and like that's cool, but can you cry in that voice? Can you be angry in that voice. You know, there's a lot to it that people don't really expect.
It takes a lot of work, and I imagine there were times where you probably like had to yell really loud where you almost threw out your voice too.
Oh, yes, plenty of times. But that's just on me not having correct voice control, which is another thing. If you're a singer, that's very helpful if you get into voice acting. But yeah, it's important to understand your voice and understand how your body operates when you're acting. So yeah, absolutely take as many classes as you can.
And real quick, any last minute advice, or maybe who may be at home watching this, anything last minute you want to say to the audience at home?
Yeah, thank you so much for watching anime, being a fan of it, because we wouldn't be able to be here with y'all and fan out. So thank you so much for being you. Yes.
Well, I think that should do it again.
Thank you so much, Danny.
Danny.
Yes.
Look like.
That's okay.
So I'm here with Alejandro Saab at KimoriCon 2023. How are we doing the con, Alejandro?
Pretty good. Just started for me. I haven't done much. I went to the gym and I ate, and that has been my con so far.
So is this your first time for an Oregon Con?
Yeah, I believe so.
So if you don't mind, real quick, some questions to ask. What made you want to get into voice acting, and what's it been like?
The thing that got me into it was a buddy of mine back when I was a freshman in high school was like, hey, do you want to do this thing for a thing called a machinima, which is like using a video game to make a short film?
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and I was like, sure. And he was like, you'll be a cop. And I was like, okay. And I was 14, still going through puberty. So, yeah, that sounded terrible. But that was kind of like my first steps into it. And then eventually I was like, oh, I like this. So I started taking acting classes and improv and all this other stuff. And then eventually I dropped out of college like you do in order to become a professional voice actor. And then now I'm here. Not everybody does that, but that's what I did.
I mean, sometimes college, but then there's like, wait, you have the debt and everything.
Well, yeah, I was studying animation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nothing to do with acting in college, but I was like, this ain't for me.
So, if you don't mind telling those at home who can't make it to the con, what have you been in, if you're able to say?
Sure. Well, hi, I'm Alejandro. I am Sino in Genshin Impact, Jing Yuen in Honkai Star Rail, Gabimaru the Hollow in Hell's Paradise, Akihiko in Persona 3 Reload. I'm just going through the glossary of things I'm voiced in. Leon in Pokemon Journeys. What else? Miyamura in Horimiya. Yuri in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Tatsuya Shiba in the Irregular Magic High School. Kuga in Food Wars. A bunch of other things.
I love Food Wars.
Yeah. And one of the most recent things was Fuji in Disgaea 7.
I have never heard of that.
Oh yeah, no, I love Disgaea. I grew up with it. It's so cool.
So how long have you been doing this for?
Professionally, I've been doing it since November of 2015. It's funny you say that's a long time, but it's really not.
It feels like a long time.
It's really not. It's 8 years.
8 years.
8 years, and I've been doing it just on I started dabbling in it since 2012, so that's been 11 years. But the first professional thing I did was Fairy Tail, and that was back in November of 2015.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, another question I've been asking recently on another podcast I do: what kind of impact has this had on you?
I mean, I've had to use Google Calendar a lot just to schedule everything between doing voiceover and streaming and just my daily life. I have to be like, all right, from 9 to 6, it's work on voiceover, and then 6 to 10, it's streaming. And then it's like, well, what about the gym? All right, let me just squeeze that in there. It's like a Tetris. If you look at my Google Calendar, yeah. If you look at my Google Calendar, it's like just Tetris pieces, just trying to fit everything in. But I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it. I wouldn't do anything else really.
Real quick, so we got like a minute here. Advice, real quick, for those who may want to get into this.
Drop out. No, I'm just kidding. My advice would be honestly try it out, because some people like the idea of doing a thing, whether it's voiceover, whether it's VTubing, whether it's streaming, whether it's just doing something. And then they like the idea and they hyperfixate, because that's how I am. And then they try it out and they're like, oh, This wasn't what I thought it was. So try it out, and if you like it, continue pursuing it. And if you're having fun, then I think you're in the right direction.
That's some pretty sound advice. Again, Alejandro, thank you.
Yeah,
I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
Thank you.
So, Karen, how are we enjoying the con today?
It's just lovely. People are lovely.
So, how are we enjoying the con, and how are we enjoying Portland?
I love coming to Portland, and I love KomoriCon. I've been to KomoriCon in 2014, 2019. I did their online version during COVID, and so coming back feels like being with family. And it's a big con with a small family feel, and they just take such good care of their guests, both their professional guests and all the con people who come, all the fans. They just take such good care of people. So it's just very nurturing, and I love it.
So in a way, this is kind of a home con. It's like a con you like.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a home con.
Nice. So, how did you get into voice acting? Like, what made you decide that's something you wanted to do?
I wanted to be an actress ever since I was a very, very little girl. When I was a little girl, I was making up plays in the basement for my parents to see, and I wanted to be in all the school plays, and it's just something that I loved. I mean, and it was really, I don't know, it was really nature as opposed to nurture, because nobody I knew in my family or my life was an actor. And when I was a student, I moved to France, and I never considered voice acting. I always was just working to be an actor. I was studying psychology at the time because people said that acting was very difficult, and because I was short and I didn't look like Brooke Shields or the beauties of the time. They told me that I couldn't, be a successful ingenue, but then I wasn't ugly enough to be a character actress. So I wasn't encouraged, even though I won prizes for acting in high school and everything. So I was studying psychology, and I went to France to study psychology, and I was studying some theater on the side. And I ended up teaching kids to act in English and being an acting coach, and I started dialect coaching then. And while I was teaching these kids, some people came in who had a magazine called Hi Kids, and they were looking for actors to voice. They had a little cassette, so this is really dating me. I don't know if anybody knows what a cassette tape is anymore. But they were doing a magazine with a cassette tape at the time, and they wanted actors to tell those stories and to be all the characters, and I got hired just like that. And so we were recording all of these stories, and I was doing all of these voices, little boy voices, Lady Godiva, Scottish women, and I kind of cut my teeth on this little project. And then I started dubbing French films into English for, airplanes and things like that, and then that led to doing cartoons. And so I had a whole career in France. I started doing film and television in France. I went to acting school in France. I did a lot of theater in France. So there's still tons of French TV shows out there and movies that you can see me in if you can look for them. And I was doing a lot of voiceover in France. They do a lot of versions in English, because for the international market, they'll tend to record the original cartoons in English because it just sells better. So I had like a very, very successful career in France for almost 20 years. And that's how it started. And then I moved here and got into the whole anime world and video games, and it just kind of took off here.
If you can remember, what was your first role for either an anime or video game, if you can remember?
I did many, many video games in France, but two that the audience might recognize is one called Dune, and another was Rayman.
I'm familiar with Rayman.
And then when I got to the States, some of the very first ones I did were, I'll give you a couple names of them. Deers, played a robot maid. XPS, no. Your fans will know it. They'll know it.
They'll probably like.
I played a French character. I'm trying to find some really, really early ones. If I had my credits in front of me, I could look through them. Yeah, there's a couple really early ones that when I just got into town, I started doing, that are now like fans still have me sign them, and they're still very popular. Before the end of the interview, if I think of any others, I'll tell you.
Okay. So last question: what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who wants to get into acting, whether it's here in the States or somewhere internationally?
I would say do as much theater as possible. Take as many classes as possible. But especially, people sometimes think that voice acting is doing a voice, and it's embodying a character, just like film or television, just like theater. And I find that some of the most successful voiceover actors are the ones who have done theater. So if you can get into any classes, theater, voiceover classes, and just take as many classes and do as much as you can, and play as much as you can. And I know a lot of fans do fan dubs. Do that. Whatever brings you joy and whatever touches your heart, do that. And if you get into class with a coach that makes you feel bad or that you don't like, leave that class and find another. Trust yourselves and trust your heart. And I'd also say that if there are things or obstacles that you're afraid of, or things that are blocking you, like having to make a phone call or having to, things that are scary, I'd say absolutely do those things. Because a lot of times people will go, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. And in order to attain your dreams, you often have to do things that are uncomfortable, and you often have to push past your fear. And there's some cliche that says, the person who gets to the top of the mountain or attains that dream is not the same person who started out with a dream, because, all the steps to getting to that place are steps that make you grow,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that should do it again, Karen. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
I
So
will.
I'm here with J. Michael Tatum at, I guess I don't even really need to say KimuraCon anymore. I said that a bunch yesterday, and it's just becoming a broken record. How are you doing, Michael?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are we enjoing the con so far?
So far, so good, man. It's really nice. Very chill. It's good to be back in Portland.
I dig the glasses, by the way.
Thank you. I got these. I don't remember where I got them. I just saw them. I'm like, mine must have them. I look like a middle-aged version of the kid from the Treasure Planet or Atlantis, the animated movies. You remember those? Yeah, Milo. Yeah. I gotta really get my facts straight, but yeah. So I like them. I'm like, oh, truly round frames. I like your glasses too, incidentally. They work well with the ensemble.
So for those who aren't familiar with you, mind letting them know what you've been in?
Tons of stuff over the years. I've been doing this for about 20 years, so I think that I'm probably best known for, I played Tenya Ida in My Hero Academia. I am Commander Erwin, was Commander Erwin in Attack on Titan, and because he's dead now. And spoilers, people die in that show.
I think everyone dies in that show.
I probably.
Safe, not even moms.
Sebastian Michaelis in Black Butler. Oh God, tons of stuff. Kyoya in Ouran High School Host Club. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And on. It's also Sir Hammerlock in Borderlands.
He's probably my favorite character.
Yeah. I love him. So, yeah, I like if it's an anime or it's odds are pretty good. I'm in it somewhere somehow.
So what made you want to get into this? This is something you wanted to do.
It's interesting. I didn't really want to do it. I started life as an actor, as a stage actor, and that's a whole other story, but I started very young. And by the time I got into my 20s, I had enough experience under my belt that just a buddy of mine that worked for Funimation back when they were still Funimation in Dallas was like, hey, you're an actor. Do you want to hop in the booth and do some voice acting for me because I'm casting this show? And I was like, no. And then, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. So, because I had no concept. I'm like, I'm not a voice actor. I don't know what that is. What is that? What's that? I need a stage. I need a limelight. But he was very patient with me and got me in the booth. And I was like, well, this is fun. And here I am 20 years later.
Does it feel like it's been 20 years since you've been doing this?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. It depends on what aspect of it. Like if you told me, so much has changed even in the past few years in the way the industry works and just the everything about it is so much has changed about it that it feels like it was a millennia ago when I started. But in other ways, it doesn't feel like 20 years ago. It feels like, oh, I've only been doing this since Thursday. What's going on? It's very strange. Time is kind of doesn't work the same way it used to anymore.
So a question I've been recently asking, if you can tell your younger self that you'd be doing voice acting, what do you think they'd be saying?
I think they'd laugh and be like, that sounds stupid. Why would you, like, because my younger self was a real jerk. First of all, I know myself too well. I would not try to explain anything to my younger self because I know I wouldn't listen. But I think, if I could go to my younger self who was just starting out in the business, I would love to be like, you have no idea. You have no idea what this is going to become. You just have none. You think this is a cute little weekend gig you're going to do and be like, oh yeah, I'll be in this one anime, and then who knows, and then yeah. And again, my younger self would be like, you're full of it. That's not true.
Last question. Any advice for someone who may want to get into voice acting or theater, for example, since you've been in both, basically?
I would actually tell you to start with theater if you had the chance, because it's kind of the backbone of every type of acting, I think. And theater gives you such a great experience. And voice acting is really difficult in the sense, and I'm not trying to like make it like, oh, it's so hard, you guys. Like, I am really good. That's how you know I'm good, because I do something so hard. But in terms of acting, starting with acting at something like voice acting is really difficult because it's just a different type of acting. When you're on stage, you have so much to kind of help your performance. You've got costumes and sets, you've got other actors you can talk to in real time, and you don't really have access to any of that in the booth. You're just on your own, having to pretend to talk to people that aren't really there, and match timing often. So you have to learn how to how do I get that emotion out, but also make sure it's only 2 seconds and not 3, kind of thing. It's really technical, and if you don't have a good grounding in certain acting techniques that you learn in theater, it's really hard to find your way into the emotional life of a character because you've got so many technical things working against you. And so I would say to anyone who wants to get into voice acting, I would say try theater first, or at least a workshop, because one, it's a great atmosphere. Every theater is like a little family. They get together. You can walk in and be like, hey, I got a hammer and nails. You need help with sets? And they will put you to work because they need the help. And so it's a great way to just kind of get into it and find out, kind of find your legs. And then voice acting, the landscape has changed so much in just the past even 5 years that I don't even know that any advice I could give to someone about getting in the industry would even be relevant, because I'm like, yeah, do what I did, just wait for a friend to ask you and then say no. That wouldn't work now. But I guess the advice I'd give everyone is make sure that you don't rely on it as a sole means of income, because it ain't gonna support you. It doesn't support anybody. It's always a good side gig. But it's not how any of us really make our living. We make our living either writing or directing or other things that are kind of acting adjacent. That's like most creative jobs. It's really hard to make ends meet just doing one thing. They don't like creatives having money, this world. They don't want it. They don't want us to have it. But, so that's my advice.
All right.
I hope I discouraged you.
You answered all the other questions I was going to ask. Well, Michael, I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.